So hello, my name is Rob and this is Cattle Rabbit Scale Model Studios, and in my last video I painted up these raptors and a lot of people were really interested in the base. I said if enough people asked I would show you how to do these kind of urban, dirt, rubble, ruin type of bases. They're a lot of fun to do. They can be quick, they can also not be quick depending on how much effort you put into it. So in this video it's going to cover absolutely everything and a few extra tips on how you can jazz up bases regardless. So let's just dive in and get to it. So as always, please do like and subscribe. If you enjoy this video, it really helps out small creators like myself and it helps me appease those YouTube overlords. So bases. Now, I think a lot of people kind of just sometimes do bases to get them done, which is, you know, perfectly fine. They're a great way of framing a miniature. However, the way I've always looked at miniatures is maybe not so static, but almost like a moment frozen in time. That this is just one of many movements just being captured. And a base should be no different. It's a little slice of the earth that your miniature is standing on right when he's doing that one thing that's represented in that static pose. So I think sometimes spending a bit more time on bases is definitely worth it to help kind of elevate your model that little bit higher. So I've come up with these method. Obviously, raptors, great for urban, rubble and stuff like that. We are going to need a few things, obviously. You're going to need some texture paints. Here I'll be using stirland battlemire, a really old manky pot, and aggrellan earth. However, if you don't like either of these colours, you can always substitute for other texture paints. Then you are going to need bits. I've got these odd bits from old Space Marine sprues. I can't actually remember where I got these from, but you can use pretty much anything. Bits of plasticard, even down to just like parts of miniatures. I'll show you how later on in this video. You are going to need some sandpaper. I would recommend doing this, but it really depends on what bits you're using, but you'll see why in just a bit. And then also tufts. There are a variety of tufts out here. You've got these lovely bright green ones. I'm going to be using some darker brown ones from the Army Painter. I'll try and link everything below and in the description, so do check out if you want to use the same bits that I'm using. So what we really need to do first is we're going to look at the base, and if you are using a model like you're putting a model on this base, the first thing you're going to need to be conscious of where the legs are and where you're putting stuff, because you don't want anything obstructing your model. I like to have my models centered on the base, like across the diameter of the base. So if you are going to be kind of like putting something down there, you just need to be really conscious of where the legs are, and you know, otherwise you can end up with a bit of a janky looking model. So cutting out bits, obviously you can use absolutely anything. You could use like bolters and stuff like that. I'm going to be using these little kind of bits of rubble. Any bits, Games Workshop make a multitude of stuff. If you're 3D printing, you can order from, you know, online. There's so many companies out there that do basing bits. Definitely, you know, get yourself some, because it's gonna elevate your base. You don't always have to use the same bits. But what I'm going to do first is I'm going to hold this little piece here at an angle, and I'm going to start filing it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to file it until it's at a bit of an angle. Now, the reason why I do this, and the reason why sometimes I think like bases kind of just pop that little bit extra, is the little bit of effort that you put into it. Already, it's not dead flat. Nothing in this world is always dead flat. So having a bit of an angle on your base is going to really sell the effect. And, you know, it's going to look a bit more believable, because it's almost like this part subsided and it is a ruined war zone. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to nip bits off. For me, this little kind of pillar was just poking the wrong way. Because I'd filed it to now sit more inwards, I want it facing outwards. So I'm actually just nipped it down, and I'm just going to turn the actual piece around. You can nip bits off, you can add them as rubble to the floor, but I'm just going to glue it the other way, so it pokes the other way, and it just kind of sells that effect of, you know, it's a little bit wonky, it's a little bit destroyed. What we're trying to think here is kind of dirty, urban, battlefield, war zone is the kind of effect I'm going for. I don't really have a name for these. If you think you've got a better name than that, leave it in the comments below, because I could really do. I'm not the most imaginative when it comes to names. But now I've attached it to the base, and you can see that it's, you know, it looks like it's kind of subsided into the base. And this is really where we're going to sell the effect of, as I said, of like rubble. Any little stones, any skulls, anything extra that you want to put on the base, do it now. The principle's the same. If you're getting like a bolter, cut the hand off, file it down flat and stick it on, and it looks like it's sunk into the ground, like there's been a lot of fighting on top of it and it's pushed it into the dirt. Then I am going to spray it. I'm going to be using Hyax Brown from Colourforge, obviously my go-to sprays. If you want your own, check out the link in the description box below. You can buy them. It helps me out. No extra cost to you. So yeah, there's that. But it's basically Rhinox hide. It's like a dirty brown colour, and it's really going to do like the main part of the work for us. So what we need to do now is we need to paint our parts. To do this, I am going to show you how I paint my grey kind of stone. Dawnstone is first. I've added a little bit of water to this paint, but I've not gone too heavy with it. I'm not worried about only getting a thin coat and some of that brown showing through. It's going to make it look a bit dirty. It's going to look a little bit kind of believable. That's what we want. It will tie everything together. Next, we're going to give it all over a wash. I'm using Murky Mire from Darkstar, but you can use something like aggrellan. It's exactly the same. It's just one's in a dropper bottle. I really like these Darkstar washes. Actually, I've been using them a lot lately. Do check them out. They're a really, really good product, and they cover really, really well. But I'm just going to squeeze it out onto the base, and then just getting a brush, I'm just going to absolutely cake everything in it. Don't worry about it being even. Don't worry about it being splodging. It's supposed to give the effect of dirt and build up. So if it's a little bit uneven, fantastic. That's what we're left with. Obviously, it's not looking like much now, but then we are going back to Dawnstone with a dry brush. And as you can see, I've been dry brushing a bit of green with this, and I haven't washed the brush out. So don't worry, you don't have to be perfect. But all I'm going to do, flick it over, and I'm going to focus more towards the edge where it lips up, where it would catch the light, and just kind of focus on that kind of more towards that edge. Don't forget to dry brush the sides and things like that as well, as you might notice it from certain angles. Then we are going to do the same process, but this time with Administratum Grey. Same again, I'm just going to focus it towards the edges of the broken bit of concrete type thing we've got here. And again, I am just going to flick it around the edges as well, just to catch all those bits. If you're painting things like metal, lead belcher, aggrellan, dry brush with lead belcher. It's the same type of principle. Make sure everything is painted up to this point, because next we will be coming in with texture paints. And as you can see here, obviously like on screen, I've kind of left that Rhinox hide slightly showing through towards the bottom, which is going to be great for what we're going to do now with tying in with the texture paints. Now, before you start, there's always going to be someone that goes, oh, why are you using Citadel texture paints? Because, Vallejo do X amount for X amount. That's fine. That's great. I've had this for ages. I'm using what I've got. I'm well aware that there are cheaper alternatives out there and more of it. What you need to do, get a pot of water and then open up both your texture paints. My Stirland battlemire is absolutely knackered. The air's got to some of it. It's a little bit crusty. It's separated at the bottom, but for the purpose of this, works absolutely fine for what we want. All I'm going to do is I'm going to start kind of just splodging my aggrellan earth. When it comes to the lip of the rubble that we put in, I'm going to really push the aggrellan earth up against it, because what I want it to give the effect of is that it's almost like subsided and it's going into the dirt. That's one of the reasons why we file it at that angle, so it actually looks like it's sunk into the dirt, and it's giving that effect of a really ruined old battlefield. Once everything is coated, as you can see that I've done here, you can add really thick bits. You could also get stirland aggrellan battlemire, I think it's called, the thick one. You can mix that in for a little bit of additional texture if you want. I'm going to be doing that with my stirland battlemire. I've washed off my brush, as you can see, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to dip it in, and I'm just going to start mixing it. This is still completely wet, the aggrellan earth. It's not dried at all, and all I'm going to do in a circular motion, I'm just going to start adding it to the aggrellan earth. I'm going up against like the scenery, the little terrain piece. I'm going to add a bit over here, a bit over here. And what I'm actually doing is I'm adding it in via like a little tapping motion with my brush up and down while I work around it. And all you're doing is you're almost like wet blending your texture paint on your base directly. Don't worry if it looks a little bit stark in contrast. What you can do is wash your brush out like I've done here, go back to aggrellan earth, and you can start mixing in those edges. And you'll actually get, because it's such a thick paint and easy to work with, you can actually get some really, really lovely blends. It depends what you're going for. I quite like sometimes having a bit of a sharp edge and really dark patches, almost like it's scorch marks and things like that. Sometimes it will have a little bit of a shine because I haven't shaken it properly, and it just looks quite cool actually. There you can see it is still really, really wet. Now, if you want bigger cracks, hey, sometimes the jokes just write themselves. What you can actually do is you can paint some PVA first before you put your texture paint down, and it will give you bigger cracks. Again, it's too easy. It's too early and too easy for jokes like that. However, if you want slightly smaller cracks, it will never get old. You can actually speed things up by using a hairdryer. That's what I do. Just short little 10-second blasts for about 4 or 5 minutes. And as you can see, we've got some really, really cool texture build up. We've got the cracking of the aggrellan earth, but then the stirland battlemire has kind of given us like a slightly, almost looks like a bit of an oil spill or something has happened there. And, you know, that's what we want. Next up, we can weather it. Now, this step is optional. I'm hell-bent on using these Tamiya weathering kits. I think they're really, really good. But all I do is I get the little brush and I rub it against 2 of them. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to flick it back and forth over absolutely everything. It's going to tie everything together. If you are going to do this step, give it a little blast with a matte varnish afterwards. However, you might want to skip this step if you want to keep kind of like that texture or that shine in one part, because obviously it will knock it back and everything will be a very matte finish. So do just make sure that this stage is right for the base you're doing. However, if you haven't got that, it's iron rack skin, I believe it's called, which is the one normally you see a lot of people using on deepkin and stuff like that. Iron rack skin. It's got a lovely like slight greenish tint to it. Again, get your dry brush. I still haven't washed mine out, and we're just gonna flick it all over. You can catch the edges with your scenery, but do try and just focus on the kind of ground cover side of things. Just work back and forth. You can be heavier in places, lighter in places. Again, it's all about that variation that really sells the effect of that battlefield. But this is what we're left with. As you can see, I've still got a little bit of shine. Obviously, it is under the studio light, so there is a little bit of natural shine there anyway. But you'll see it kind of at the end, I hope. Next, it's tufts. As you can see, I'm using these little dark brown ones from the Army Painter. I'm not sure what these were called. I will try and find out and leave it again in the description box below. But I'm just going to pop a few on. Again, I don't have to worry with this base because I'm not putting a model on it. This is just surely to show you guys. One thing I do like to do is with the iron rack, I give my tufts a little dry brush at the end just so they look a little bit dusty. And that's where you could leave it again if you wanted to. We've got, the dirty tufts. You could mix and match. You could put some dead ones on, some dark ones, just to sell the effect. However, I've got in my hobby arsenal here, it's Battlefield Razor Wire from the Army Painter. And again, I've used this, previously in some videos, but I always feel that I don't use this enough. So I really wanted to add some in. So all I do is I get a brush and I wrap it round, as you can see here. And I wrap it around really, really tight. I really pull it around. And that's where you get that kind of nice looping effect. I nip off a little section of it, as you can see here. Just like that. You can use a thinner brush and make smaller loops. I actually went back and did that. I've put it on my miniature. My base, sorry. Miniature, God. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little kind of dollop of super glue gel just to where the bottom bits meet. Then all I do is when that super glue is completely dry, I add a little touch of aggrellan earth and then just put a little splodge of Agrax earth shade back over it. And there you can see we're kind of left with this cool kind of effect of, this base. And, I think it looks really, really cool. It's a great way of showcasing your miniatures, framing your miniatures. Obviously, I've gone for a black rim here, but you could go for brown or something like that. It would work just as well. Unfortunately, my little spinny thing that I put my miniatures on has decided it's given up on me. So unfortunately, there are no money shots. You just get this. But I'll pop some pictures up on the community post. And if you are interested in seeing how I paint my raptors, I'll also leave a link in the pinned comment below for you to check out. But that's it from me in this one. Again, thanks to everyone who said that, they wanted to see this. It's been great. I love doing stuff like this. I hope it helps you all. I'll see you all next time. God bless and take care.